Hi, everyone. Your godmother is here. I see people popping in. What I see is like little eyeballs. It's almost kind of creepy, but I do see people popping in. Welcome back to those of you who joined us Wednesday night, and welcome to those of you who are new tonight. Wednesday, I had a little theme going, and I warned everybody that themes are perilous with me because I will latch onto a theme to my own detriment. But Wednesday was about beginnings. Tonight's about endings, but I don't want that to seem like I'm saying that main characters die or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying more like endings leading into a new beginning. The stories tonight sort of all have a theme of transformation or evolution for us, and you'll see that as we go in. But before I get into our stories for tonight, in case you don't know why you're here or what we're doing, this is our second reading from the collection, Darkness Most Foul. If you missed Wednesday night, it was recorded and you can watch it on my YouTube channel, The Godmother of Horror. Our final session will be Sunday, November 23rd at 1 p.m. Eastern. So please feel free to join for that one as well. We would love to see you. So just a few housekeeping notes. There is a comments box. People in the audience, please feel free to add comments, to encourage our authors. Feel free to ask questions because we will have time at the end to answer those. People who are watching this in the future, you can still ask your questions. I will forward them along if need be. I will also forward your comments and your support to our authors. So don't feel like you're missing out if you are watching the recording. We still love to have you. And authors, please feel free to chime in as well. I'm going to be adding some social media links, some book links in that comments section as well so that people can follow along. So the organization of tonight is we'll have the readings first, and then we're going to have time for discussion. So again, I'm talking about endings tonight and transformation. And our first story is, it is poignant. It really, I've read this story multiple times and I cry every time I read it. So if when I come back on stage, my eyes are red, it's because someone's been cutting onions in here, y'all. It's not because I'm crying again. But I'm going to add the author to the stage and I'm going to provide you with her biography. Nicola Kapron has previously been published in Neopsis Science Fiction Magazine, Duck Prince Press, Sotera Press, All Worlds Wayfarer, and Manison Press, among others. Nicola lives in British Columbia with a horde of books, mostly fantasy and horror, and an extremely fluffy cat. And I'll be dropping her social media into the comments box. Nicola, whenever you're ready, go ahead and start reading.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate the hype. I am now extremely nervous about not living up to the hype, but we all have to deal with imposter syndrome at some point or another. So, I guess, without further ado, let's crack this open, and I'll read a little bit from my short story in this collection. It's called Dirt and Ashes, but Not Bones. All right. Once you were safely inside, you Googled Big Red Vulture, more on impulse than any actual hope of finding an explanation. You had very little hope to go around. You scrolled through a river of turkey vulture pics for a few minutes before giving up and turning your phone off. Turkey vultures were familiar beasts. The sight of their bald red heads and dark, eagle-like bodies was almost nostalgic. The thing circling above you right now was something different entirely. You stole glances out the window, craning your sore neck for a better view. She was big. Bigger than a bird should be. Condor-sized, perhaps. You'd never seen one of those in person, but judging by the pictures online, the size seemed about right. The color was off, though. Condors were black and brown. Her feathers were bright, brilliant scarlet, like she had been dipped in blood. The shape was wrong, too. She might be about the same size as a condor, but you knew something was up the moment you spotted arms. The angel of death circled over your car, her broad vulture wings spread wide to catch the air, and you sat in the front seat, wondering if you should wave to her. This felt like a meeting long overdue. You didn't need to look up the life expectancy of a woman diagnosed with heart failure after 5 years. The information lived in your head rent-free. About half of those diagnosed with congestive heart failure would survive 5 years. You were not going to beat the odds. You heard once that some types of condors could soar for 100 miles without beating their wings. The vulture woman following you wasn't a condor, but her wings were as strong. If she wasn't perched on something, she was circling overhead, all her brilliant red feathers stark against the sun. She circled and circled, but never approached. The steady distance was almost reassuring. Sometimes you tried to take pictures of her. She never showed up right in the image. Digital, Polaroid, even video. They captured broad wings, but the details were lost in the harsh glare of sunlight. They never captured her face or her hands. All the parts of her that were human remained obscure. Once, a coworker walked up as you scowled down at a particularly annoying failure and whistled. "That's a big bird." He craned his neck back and searched the sky. His gaze moved right past where she glided without a trace of awareness. "Where'd you find it?" "Saw it around the office," you told him. "I'm not sure what it was, and this picture isn't helping." He squinted at your phone again. "Some kind of raptor? It's got the feet of one." You hadn't really noticed that her talons were visible in this shot. It didn't really matter. Her feet were entirely vulture feet. "It was soaring in circles," you said. "I couldn't make out the head, but I thought it might be some kind of vulture." "Huh, maybe. But I don't think it's native." "A transplant, huh?" You nodded to yourself and stowed your phone away. That would make sense. She certainly didn't look like a native bird. And if your tired, sick heart skipped a beat at the thought of her soaring across entire countries just to circle over your head, well, your heart was failing you anyways. Nobody else cared what it did anymore. Just you. And now, her. Your nights were difficult, spent tossing and turning, trying to prop yourself up enough to keep from coughing without making it impossible to sleep. Every morning, you woke to a shadow outside the window and a creeping ache spreading through you. You kept putting on weight overnight. Your ankles swelled like ripe fruit. If you closed your eyes and lay very still, you could feel your body grinding to a halt. The vulture woman sat on the electric poles, then the nearby rooftops, and then, finally, the roof over your neighbor's balcony. Always, she watched from beneath a mane of wild hair, spiked and feathered like some predatory dinosaur, a creature out of time. Up close, you could see that her irises were yellow, but the whites of her eyes were red. Though she didn't have a beak, there was something decidedly pointy about her face. Her teeth were a burnished copper tint, and the hands peeking out from under her wings were talons. One morning, you slept through your alarm, all 4 of them, and startled awake to the sound of a sharp, piercing whistle. You blinked until the world came into focus. The sound continued while you stumbled upright and felt your way to the window. You half expected some dog walker trying to attract canine attention, or a particularly rude catcaller making a nuisance of himself below. Instead, you saw her crouched on your neighbor's balcony like a gargoyle, the half-crushed corpse of a dog held in her claws. She had craned her neck to squint into your apartment. As you stood there, in your old, stained nightshirt, she whistled one more time and bobbed her head in apparent satisfaction. "Thanks," you rasped, "for the wake-up call." You couldn't afford to get fired. Not yet. When you were closer to the end, sure, but you didn't want to burn out on the streets. The vulture woman bobbed her head again, sharp teeth curved in what looked like a smile. Then she stretched her clever talons out, plucked a rib from the dog's open chest, and bit down. The crunch of bone filled your apartment as you got ready for work. During lunch break, you searched for bone-eating vulture on your phone. This time, you found a match. And I'm going to call it there because I was asked to leave off on a cliffhanger.
And you certainly did. Thank you so much, Nicola. Yeah, please, everybody, read the rest of that story. It is amazing. And thank you, people on Instagram. I see you joining. Your godmother loves you. I think you can comment on Instagram. Who knows? Instagram's crazy. Nicola, I am going to throw you out right now. I feel so powerful when I do that. Our next story is sort of a coming of age, coming to an understanding story where masks slip and facades are dropped. So I'm going to invite our next author to the stage and provide you with his bio. Robert Mayette is a writer, actor working in Connecticut, equally devoted to the page and the stage. He writes literary and speculative fiction and holds an MA in English literature with a focus on medieval and early American writing. His work has appeared in 34 Orchard and America Mensa's Calliope, as well as in anthologies My Peculiar Family and Ink Stains. His most recent theater work was Last Week, playing the ghost of Benedict Arnold at Keeler Tavern Museum's Ghost of Ridgefield. Yeah, he's a traitor, but it's complicated. Rob wants to see all the beauty that there is in the world, but he'll content himself with beholding what he can. And I will put his website in the comment box. Rob, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to the reading tonight. The story that I'm going to be reading from features the caladrius, which is a mythological bird that was common in medieval bestiaries. And its trait was it could heal any illness with a glance. But the thing is that its glance was its own. It always decided where its own eyes went. So I do a lot of work in theater. I'm running a program called Fairy Tale Theater here in Connecticut. So my mind went to the deep past for this one. I'm going to start in the middle. So I'm going to give you a little bit of lead up. So before this in the story, the point of view character, Louis Pendergast, is living with his father, Albert, who's a research scientist. He is a disgraced research scientist because him and his colleague had published a big finding that ended up being bunk science. A few years later, his father, who's named Albert, told him that it was his colleague, who Louis knows affectionately as Uncle Jim, who had doctored the experiment and was responsible for both of them being disgraced. And while his dad eked out a diminished existence at university, Uncle Jim went to go find himself and resurface many years later as the owner of an animal theme park called Birds of Paradise. And there's been many newspaper articles written about Uncle Jim and this secret healing bird that he has at his park. Louis is increasingly worried because his father has been declining rapidly from dementia. He does not trust Uncle Jim at all for obvious reasons, but he has some choices needing to be made if there's a chance to help his dad. And I'm going to jump in the middle there. I'm on page 256 in the book. Decline is the worst lie of dementia. It summons the notion of a gradual slope, like those signs on some country roads at the start of a fresh downhill that proclaim 8%. Your experience will be a steady 8%. At worst, it conjures a double diamond with some moguls. But Albert Pendergast's decline was so fast, I didn't even have time to make him the necessary appointments. Who do you call when you're thinking primary, specialist, hospice, and a tangled knot of wishes, whims, worries, what the hells? I didn't know whom to call until I thought a call wouldn't suffice anymore anyway, nor whom to visit, whom to pray to. Whom to write in a piece of beautiful filigreed stationery from the father's desk, 2 silver Canadian geese hovering over a green-clad world, a Christmas gift he never opened. Dear friends of my father, I started. Something grandiose, like how you invite a bunch of people you want to murder elaborately to a country estate that's prone to having its bridge washed out. I thought about reworking that, but no, they're all shits. And my father's friends should know that they're shits. They should open the letter, and the first thing they think should be, oh, I'm a friend of his father's, but I've been a total shit to him. Maybe I should rethink my life. Perhaps be less of a total shit. What would an anti-total shit version of me look like? I shall ponder this and make the necessary changes to my total shit self. And then I told them of how Albert Pendergast always talked about them, always thought the very world of them. But he is in quick decline now and would like to see them again, perhaps a last time. I, his bumbling son, only have their written addresses, if you'll excuse the limited form. But here is my email address if you might do me the favor of a reply. But here is where the illusion could fail. I only had Uncle Jim's newest address, this Birds of Paradise theme park, revealed by some quick Googling. He'd long since left no forwarding address when I tried to reach out to him the holidays after he was banished from the scientific world. So there was no way I could persist the illusion of just an ex-colleague's dutiful son sifting through old papers if you put it together. Fortunately, according to the fringe media, he sounded still too into himself to notice. Bird Park Heals Woman, read one of the headlines that came up on my screen. She went to the park, went into a hidden area, some cavern of lost trepidations, it was called, and emerged free from cancer and forbidden to speak of the means. How a hidden area can have a name of any kind, especially one like that, is far beyond my comprehension. But some were speaking, those who were not healed. Lies, shouted one near-toothless woman. I went into this room and this bird ignored me, and I didn't get any better. A total scam. Did anyone demand money from her? The reporter pressed. Was she scammed out of anything financial? My pride. You think my pride is worthless? But apart from complaints of the high cost of tickets, the same that everyone paid, and the long line awaiting this magic bird's cavern, there were no overt efforts to swindle. And there were all these people who had given up hope, who were now walking around happy, healthy. None would speak of a bird. All would say, it is not for me to reveal. On one video site, I found a reporter who was asking Uncle Jim about it all. He was standing in the middle of his theme park. He was surrounded by lush bougainvillea trees. A jasmine bush behind him was a cloud of white stars. He was smiling at the camera. This is what I can tell you. There is such a thing as magic, if that's the word you want to use to describe anything we were never meant to understand. He stepped before a net-strewn pen. Take this creature, the blue morpho butterfly. Yes, here at Birds of Paradise, we celebrate all winged creatures, not just birds. Now, what color are its wings? Here the reporter, after a pause so long that it was clear that he wouldn't continue without an answer, gave a snark-tinged, obvious response. He snorted. Hardly. What appears as blue to you and I is not pigment. Its wings are brown, but they are covered in crystal-like scales that reflect only blue light. That is what it shows us. He stepped to another enclosure and gestured grandly at the over-feathered occupant. Why does the Lady Amherst pheasant choose to run rather than fly? It's perfectly capable of flight. Its tail might even impede running, especially in the thick underbrush that it also prefers. But yet it runs, on principle. That is why we are here. Miss, and here the reporter gave her name and Uncle Jim repeated it. Yes, a fine German name. That is what we are here for, Miss P, to live out our difficult principles, as does this pheasant, no matter how they might appear, as does this butterfly. If you would like to see more, I can show you more, but you will have to leave your doubting eyes behind. The video wrapped shortly thereafter. I thought about Uncle Jim and impossible dreams. It all sounded ludicrous, but he never had a group of people say that his quackery was real before. Was it all a bunch of paid lies? Could it be? How could anyone pay for a lie anymore when someone else with a YouTube account can pay even more for the story and all those clicks that come with it? Forget what people say. Truth sells, and it sells big, especially when there's a spectacular takedown accompanying it. And what if the detractors were lying? No, that couldn't be. They all had the same story. This stupid white bird that wouldn't even look at me was their common refrain. That was unexpected. But what wasn't unexpected was when Uncle Jim's letter finally came, in the mail, of course. It was in a gold-foiled envelope with Master Louis Pendergast as the lucky, blessed recipient. I haven't been a miner for over 20 years, yet I opened the letter feverishly. Dearest seeker of truth and life, the time is now. Come to Birds of Paradise and take the chance to be healed of all things troubling to mind and body. Regardless, you will have the clarity of final assurance. What greater gift is there than this? 2 sparkling covered passes were tucked inside the letter. Here is where someone would stop and ask, why would anyone believe him? Why did I? Why? And that's where I'll stop.
It's always wonderful to hear writers read their own work, but to hear an actor read his own writing is what your dialogue was amazing.
Thank you
That
very
was
much.
so wonderful. And the humor peppered in with it. Wonderful. You had some great comments in the comment box. Please look at those, Rob, as I kick you out. It'll make it feel better when I kick you out to read all those compliments. So talking about transformations, our next story is it. When Christy first talked to me about an anthology of bird stories, I said, I really want Christmas Chicken. And Christmas Chicken is the only story in the book that was priorly published. It was in Christie's magazine, 34 Orchard, which if you're not reading that, you're really missing out, and you should. It is a gorgeous magazine. It's always of the highest quality. I was thrilled when Ernest said that we could include this story in the anthology. I am going to add him to the stage and give him his introduction. Ernest Ògúnyẹmí writes from Nigeria. He has had work in Agni, No Tokens, The Dark, 34 Orchards, Hopkins Review, and Mooncalves, an anthology of weird fiction. He is the author of a poetry chapbook, A Pocket of Genesis, and a forthcoming collection of stories, Let Beginnings Suffice. He has a degree in history and international studies from Lagos State University and currently edits poetry for FICO magazine. And I'm going to put a link to his chapbook in the comments. Ernest, whenever you're ready, go ahead and start.
Thank you very much, Elaine. I'm glad to be able to read this story. I wrote it years ago. I tell Christy that it's a blessing because I remember it was the first thing that I sold, if the first story that I ever sold, and it made me feel like a writer. It's about a guy who wakes up early, a few days to Christmas, as a chicken, and he already planned a date with a lady uh, that he really, really likes, and he tries to meet up with that date. Does he meet up with the date? Was he able to meet up? And he also has to fulfill an obligation. He has to provide a Christmas chicken to his family because he's the eldest of the family, and he owes it to his siblings that they have chicken to eat during Christmas. So this story comes out of like experiences from my childhood. I remember Christy saying that the scenes are very vivid, and there are particular scenes from Bariga where I spent my childhood. But I'm going to launch into it now and just read the story. Uh, Chidebere Okafo, like everyone else, slept the night before, thinking, imagining, and silently praying in the dark of his small one-room apartment. There was no power supply. He had no generator. The cost of usage and maintenance scared him from giving half a month's salary to buying one. There were quite a number of things to think of, imagine, and pray about. But most important right now was the girl he recently met, Francisca. If not that the battery of his phone was flat, he would have been looking up all her photos on Instagram, kissing them and praying that God grants his heart's desire and gives her to him. But these things happen all the time. Ebere opened his eyes from a dream in which he was dressed in a white three-piece suit that hugged his body like his skin, and Francisca was in a white wedding gown that was so long it dragged after her like a dying animal being pulled by the arm. Her arm was in ease and he was walking her down the aisle, but he realized it was not himself. He opened his mouth, trying to yawn and stretch his body, but a wet sound escaped his throat, and he had wings flap. He bent his head, neck now as flexible as rubber, to look at his body. What he saw made him want to die instantly. I'm a fucking fowl. It must be a very bad dream, a very bad one. He mumbled to himself in his heart. He closed his eyes, held the lids tight together for some seconds, and then opened them. Wah! Was what he thought he said, but a loud crow tumbled from his mouth. He jumped off his bed. He ran about on two tiny legs. He stuck his beak in the wall many times in frustration. No, no, this can't be happening. He kept saying in his heart as time played into different scenes. He would try to shout, to cry for help, but all he could do was crow. While jumping here and there, he hid the small basket by his bedside, and everything as everything inside poured out. One thing his eyes caught was the small hand mirror he always used when popping the pimples that spread like roaches' eggs across his face. Looking in the mirror now, he realized he had a red comb, like all other adult fowls, that ran across his small head like Balotelli's haircut. He looked at his face with the white brown dotted feathers, and his small eyes and long beak, and two bits of tears rolled down, falling on the mirror. When morning's first light broke upon his brow, he opened his eyes. He rose up and realized nothing had changed. He was still a fowl, a fucking fowl. But he thought of Pastor Olufemi, and tiny rays of hope filtered into the bleakness of his situation. Pastor Olufemi was on the pulpit already when Ebere ran into the church. He stood before the altar, cackling over and over in an attempt to make the man of God aware of him and his situation. May you open his eyes, Lord. Please, Lord. Lord, please. He kept praying. The ushers of the church, all dressed in black trousers, tucked into blue shirts and black ties, gathered around him. He knew each of them. That was Bro Philip, the one with the mustache. His wife would have entered the market had it not been for the man of God. The very dark one was Ismail, and family problems had brought him to the God of Pastor Olufemi. And that one, the thin one with almost graying hair, Shino, had come to be a convert of the God-sent preacher because it was said that there was a covenant, a bad covenant over his life, which was made while he was sleeping with black and yellow, plump and slim, busty and light ladies. The guy once said he started touching women at the age of 12. It was his aunt who had taught him how to enter a woman's body. They caught Ebere the chicken and handed him over to the man of God. Father, please help him to see that it is me. Lord, please do not pass me by. I will worship you all my life. This, Pastor Olufemi began. He was dressed in a neat, shiny suit and black suede shoes that pointed their noses at heaven like a gossip woman's. This, he said again, Father, please do this for me. Please, Lord, please. Pastor Olufemi walked down the tiled pulpit to the cemented floor of the church auditorium, closer to the worshippers who were already getting frightened. This is possessed of the spirit of the Aje. It has been sent by the witches to eat up every one of our prayers like grain. He finally said. Ebere the chicken began to cackle more and more in an attempt to say, no, no, no. Can you see? Pastor Olufemi asked the congregation, which had started to shout, hallelujah, praise the Lord, whoa, Eshe Baba, yes, Adupe. But you have come to your end today, he said to Ebere the chicken, and that made him cackle more and more. It is the same day a man sees evil, that evil goes down to its grave. The church was all up now, babbling Holy Ghost fire. The man of God rolled Ebere the chicken many times, swinging him this way and that, before throwing him to the hard floor of the auditorium. Ebere did not wait for the pain in his bones to die out. At that opportunity, he scurried out of the church. I want to end the thing by saying praise the Lord, but it's not a church. Thank you very much. Yeah. Please get this copy of the book. Yeah.
Yes, please do. And Ernest, you've given me such a gift. I love that story so much. I loved hearing you read it. You know, I've always tried to picture in my head how it might sound. So what a blessing to have you here tonight. Our next reader, as I said, was unable to be here in person, but she did send a video. So it's going to require me to do a little bit of fancy footwork, but let me first introduce her and then I'll play the video. V. Castro is a two-time Bram Stoker Award nominated Mexican-American writer from San Antonio, Texas, now residing in the UK. She writes horror, erotic horror, and science fiction. Her books include The Haunting of Alejandra, Alien Vasquez, Mestiza Blood, The Queen of the Cicadas, Out of Aztlan, Las Posadas, Rebel Moon, which is an official Netflix film novelization, and Goddess of Filth. Her forthcoming novel is Immortal Pleasures from Del Rey, and I do have, as I said, her video.
V. Castro here, and I'm going to be reading from my story, Darkness Most Fowl. Yes, this story is dedicated to Hecate and witchcraft, as inspired by the place I live now, which is the UK, and some really gnarly, nasty birds. But when you've got a goddess on your side, the witches of Winchester. Hecate, Hecate, bring us your light. We offer our voices in exchange for the keys to the secrets of the triple moon and the protection of your hounds. Hecate, Hecate, protect us from doom, the darkness that takes flight and that seeks to drag our bones over hot coals. Cherry Turner knew it wasn't safe this time of year to be foraging so close to sunset, but the light filtering through the trees when it wasn't raining filled her with inspiration. The autumn warmth of a still shining sun and changing leaves with a crisp breeze made her wish she really could fly across the rolling hills of South England. Unfortunately, that type of witch only existed in the storybooks. She was a different type of witch. Witches in the real world couldn't fly on broomsticks. Magic existed for those who allowed it to work through them, or allowed greater deities to work through them. At 20, she first experienced the calling and left university to join the Coven of Winchester. Some thought it was some type of cult, but others knew the women there were special. Cherry wanted to grab a few extra ingredients to make another batch of oils and candles before the Saturday market in the center of Winchester. The previous week she sold out. The market always drew a decent crowd, being so close to the cathedral, and a wide choice of good coffee shops with fresh baked goods. The sound of buskers filled the pedestrianized streets. She loved the Saturday market, as did all her dorm sisters. She chanted Hecate's prayer under her breath to help calm her nerves. It also helped her focus on finding what she needed so she could rush back to the dormitory before dark. Her eyes darted to the treetops for any unusual movement or sounds. An attack hadn't occurred in a very long time. However, the anniversary of killing the egg layer was approaching. Her feathers remained at the feet of Hecate's altar in the dormitory. They were the feathers of a vautour. 4 of the elders in the coven captured her and burned her carcass. Without an egg layer, the vautours would have to remain in hiding until another was born. That time must have come. Where there was one, there were others, and they would be hungry again. For centuries, they were drawn to the land surrounding the cathedral to consume pious pilgrims. Over time, small horse and cart roads had been transformed to motorways and dual carriageways. Not so many humans as easy prey. The insidious winged creatures, the vautours, now survived on wild foxes, deer, grazing sheep, or strays, but they preferred human flesh. Some surviving texts said they were those who practiced witchcraft during the Black Death and transferred their souls to the birds of prey. But that is what the priests believed. Those in the coven had other texts that recounted they had no origin story. They simply were dark creatures that looked half human and half vulture. Some said they were entities from a greater universe corrupting creatures here. It didn't matter. They were lethal. Cherry had never seen one and didn't want to. Cherry carried a bag of rose hips, wild rosemary, and blackberries. As she bent down to pluck woodruff, a deer dashed past her, then a bird. She glanced back to see what had made these animals burst through the forest. She didn't hear anything or see anyone approach. Only a dull silence remained. Her heart began to beat faster. She took a step to return to the dormitory when leaves above her head began to fall and the loud crack of a branch breaking made her jump. From behind the wide rotting roots of a fallen tree to her left, a shadow emerged. But it wasn't a shadow. The creature reared its mostly bald head towards her. Oily black threads sprouted from its scalp and fell across its scarred human-like face. Its body shuddered, causing its black feathers to shake from its neck down. Spiders and insects fell onto the ground from its movements. Its solid black beady eyes fixed upon her. The nose, or at least what she thought was a nose, jutted like an upturned hook over its mouth. With cracked, mottled lips and a white wrinkled hand outstretched, it spoke to her. "What is a beauty like you doing out here?" So, if you want to know more, grab the book, and please, please, please don't forget, leave a rating, leave a review. It all helps us authors, but also people who are like Elaine Pascale, who are doing anthologies. So yes, appreciate the support on this one. And thank you so much for tuning in, reading the book, supporting the book. and I will see you later.
Thank you, V, and thank you. I do always forget, and it's so important that readers, click a star or two or just say, I like the book. It means so much. It's like giving gold to an author or an editor or a publisher. And I'm not trying to give you homework. All you have to say is like, I recommend it. You don't have to go into grave details, but that was a wonderful reading from V. Castro. Now, our last two authors close out the book, Darkness Most Foul, in the most perfect way I could have ever imagined. Allow me to introduce our penultimate author who wrote the most striking story for Darkness Most Foul. Geneve Flynn is a speculative fiction editor, author, and poet, winner of 2 Bram Stoker Awards and the Shirley Jackson, Australasian Shadows, and Aurealis Awards, and recipient of the 2022 Queensland Writers' Fellowship. Her work has been long-listed for the British Fantasy, Locus, Carl Brandon Parallax, and Elgin Awards. She's the co-editor of Black Cranes, Tales of Unquiet Women, the dark fiction anthology which launched the grassroots movement in Asian women's horror writing. Her work has been published by Weird Tales, PS Publishing, Flame Tree Publishing, and Pseudopod, among others. She is Chinese, born in Malaysia, and now calls Australia her home. As she reads, I'll be dropping some information about Geneve in the comments box, along with a shout out to an author who's going to be reading on Sunday. So Geneve, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Elaine. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. It's super exciting to be doing this reading. I'm going to be reading my story, I'm Not Myself Today, and it's based on the burung tiong, which is a little mimic bird from Malaysia. And if you go onto YouTube and search out recordings of the burung tiong, it's actually quite eerie to hear almost a human voice coming out of this little bird. So I'm going to start. My sister is just 2 years older than I am, but it may as well be 10. Tall and willowy and possibly worldly, Celeste is quick to smile and quicker to turn her back if you bore her. There is no malice, it's just how she is, and everyone loves her like the sun. They say I'm her shadow, always a step behind, ever eager to emulate her speech, her appearance, her actions. Who could blame me? Even my mother tells me, as if I am an impartial participant in our conversations, that I am half of what she is. Then one day, Celeste became more, and I became even less. Feathers appeared in her arms like fine down one morning, and in the days after they bloomed along her spine and began to lengthen and glow with color, iridescent aqua, magenta, crimson. I waited for the stares to begin, for the whispers that she was a demon, for the parangs, machetes, to be sharpened and readied. But as is always the way for Celeste, what followed her was idolation. The girls collected feathers and fronds that resembled her neonate plumage, and decorated their headdresses and skirts, weaving veins into their hair. The boys clamored to escort my sister to the river, where they all swam and fished. They called and whistled like warblers and magpies. This morning I hope to follow. There were other younger girls who went down to the river with my sister's friends. Why couldn't I? I spent the day before collecting brightest plumes and long curling leaves. I added scented frangipani and delicate orchids to my costume. When I hear Celeste's friends calling for her, I hastily arrange my outfit, careful not to dislodge any precious pieces, and emerge resplendent into the front room where they wait. The boys have already begun their calls and whistles, and Celeste responds, her voice an effortless silvery chime. I have spent hours practicing her laughter, her words. I take a deep breath. Tiong, tiong. I clap my hand over my mouth, sour heat swirling from my stomach outward until I'm hot all over. Burong Tiong, my mother wheedles from the inside dry kitchen, calling me the Malay name for a common hill miner. Are you laying an egg? The boys and girls fall about with laughter. The girls pluck at my adornments, which I now see are terribly overdone and garish in comparison to their sleek arrangements. I have not divined the rules, as usual. With my flat black hair, round eyes, beaked nose, and stocky frame, I suppose I even look like the little bird. Celeste smiles indulgently. Leave Leisha be. The girls break from their avid examination with a collective ruffle. A boy or two sniggers behind their hands. Your costume is perfect, Celeste says, gently straightening the bedraggled remains that are now just the stubby black feathers I collected from the cage of our family bird, Hadiz. She smiles again, and I hate her for it. How can she make me feel so small with her kindness? But Hadiz is meant to imitate you, not the other way round. Then she and her flock depart, shimmering with good cheer and belonging. Tiong, the hill miner's cry, a downward swooping toll which echoes across the canopy of the Malaysian forest. A Burong Tiong can be taught any number of vocalizations: coughs, prayers, greetings, questions, insults. Its ability to mimic just about anything is its one remarkable quality. Hadiz, our little Burong Tiong, lives in a cage in our courtyard and can reproduce with uncanny accuracy the sound of mahjong tiles shuffling. He has spent his life listening to the rolling click-clack-clack, unwillingly swathed in cigarette smoke as my father plays with friends day and night. Would Hadiz know what to do if he was set free? Would he know what he should be? Would other birds sense his lack and scratch him to bloody pieces? Perhaps that is the why the others laughed at me when I had been reduced to his feathers. I ask him these questions, poking caterpillars through the bars of his cage. He cocks his head, flapping the two fleshy yellow wattles at his nape, and replies as best as he can. Salam alaikum. Peace be unto you, he warbles, and looks to me for approval. He, 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 cough, 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 my father's Tauri refrain. Hadiz pecks at my fingers, drawing my attention. He hops closer, pecking again, but I run out of insects. Mo Young, he cries, useless. In agitation, he fusses at his feathers, and one comes loose and drifts to the floor. I pick it up. Perhaps Celeste is right. Perhaps my mother knows me best. Beautiful feathers are not for such a lifeless imitation. Only these common black ones from a common black bird. Are we the same, Hadiz? I ask. He, he, he. Hadiz hops up to his perch. Click, clack, clack, he rattles. Fian yin, cheat, cheat. The recitation of the mahjong noise has reminded him of my father's favorite protest when losing. Are you laying an egg? Hadiz recites, and I could swear my mother speaks to me through his throat. My jaw tightens, and I grip the feather and stab it into my forearm, expecting, relishing the punishing agony to come. It glides in. No pain, only an unnerving, eager acceptance. I stare as it seeps into my flesh, fitting as if I were born to it. I brush the thing with my fingertips, and a vibration runs through my bones and up my arm. Shuddering, I gingerly pinch the vein and pull. It tugs free just as painlessly, but unpleasantly shucking. The calamus is hot and slick. That is my body warmth clicking to its length. I flick the feather away with a cry, and it lands on the floor, glistening bloodlessly along the inch-long shaft. The hole in my arm gapes like a giant paw, pink and deeply cylindrical.
Wonderful. Isn't the godmother so lucky to have gathered all these wonderful stories? Thank you so much, Geneve. Again, I loved hearing you read that. I loved reading it myself, but I loved hearing you even more. So thank you again. Our final, last but not least story. When I read the story, it was a gut punch in the best possible way. And I said, this has to end the book. There's no other way to end this book. So let me bring our final author to the stage. An American author, poet, and editor living in Australia, L.E. Daniels is a finalist for the Shirley Jackson, Bram Stoker, Ari Ellis, Australasian Shadows, and Ditmar Awards. Lauren's novel, Serpent's Wake, A Tale for the Bitten, is a notable work in the Horror Writer Association's mental health initiative. Her recent work has been published by Flame Tree Press, Black Spot Books, Hippocampus Press, Twisted Wing Productions, Underland Press, 34 Orchard, and Timber Ghost Press. She holds an MFA from Emerson College and directs Brisbane Writers Workshop, which I will drop that into the chat for you guys to see. Lauren, go ahead and take it.
Thank you, Elaine. It's delightful to be the one who closes the show. This is Stomata, and I should issue a content warning as suicide is a theme. Basically, this is a story about how nature finds a way to replace songbirds destroyed by humanity's exploitation and ensures that photosynthesis continues. There's a theory that the frequency of morning songbird, or morning bird song, I should say, stimulates the opening of the stomata, which are the tiny pores on the undersides of leaves, which commences the respiration of photosynthesis. My story begins upon the International Space Station, and it starts with a little poem. This section is called Ecstasy. In orbit, the same dream, telescoping time, asleep in straitjackets. I grip the bar and gaze out at the sunlit surface of the earth. The view is just as the others told me, but without so many words. I am pierced by a state of grace. Everything within me rises weightless toward home, but I resist. I press my spine against the hexagonal structure of the cupola and plant my feet firmly, inhaling the cool, recycled air. Time spirals through me, from a 6-year-old girl adjusting the eyepiece on her father's telescope, through the collage of sacrifices that brought me here. And in this gaze, all memory thins to vapor. I break apart and abandon the hunger to prove myself worthy of this uniform as ribbons of clouds and swathes of blue turn before me. In the distance, the light is just right and reveals the gold amniotic aura of Earth's atmosphere. I draw my gaze back to the ocean and look closer as the sea meets the curve of a continent. The wrinkle of the Himalayas appears without snow. Beyond them, scattered emerald landscapes are absorbed into beige deserts, and industrial regions release greasy ochre whirls into sapphire seas. Night claims the Pacific and stretches over landscapes slick with pale urban lights. It takes 90 minutes to circle the earth, and I clutch the bar until my hands cramp. A tear escapes and lifts from my cheek, a perfect sphere. I'm going to skip to part 2. As what's covered here is this, that the astronauts begin to discuss that they are all experiencing the same dream, as if the Earth itself is playing a stone tape of the Jurassic period, and they're hearing dawn. They're hearing the cacophony of dinosaur song in the mornings in their dreams. Now, in part 2, Cascade, we open 10 years later after Piotr and Hiroyuki, who are colleagues of our speaker, are all back on Earth and getting on with their lives. Opposable thumbs grasp and wipe out worlds. I find out about Hiro on Christmas morning. Since we left the space station a decade ago, he sends images from his daughter Tomoe's exhibitions every year, a courtship of cranes, crested ibis with rose gold wing feathers spread like fingers, a snowy owl in a poplar tree. Last Christmas, he sent me a fat little Shima Inaga, a cotton ball of a bird with tiny black eyes. Each year he's reached out, but not this Christmas, which is warm everywhere and lit almost globally by a strange humidity. Sitting up in bed at 5 a.m, I watch Hero standing in the gray light of the shrouded window. A waning moon still haunts the gauze of my curtains. His back is to me, but I know this man. His gaze is aimed at the part in the curtains, at the twin red maples in my yard, skeletal in the dark and draped in moonlit fog. Earlier this week, I saw the headlines. The last of the red crown cranes died in Japan from an avian flu that traces back to some poultry farm in Oklahoma or maybe Scotland, finger pointing, it's no one's fault and it's everyone's, our collective appetites to blame. Now Hero stands transparent at my window while I hold my breath. My phone lights up. Piotr, requesting voice and camera. I look again and Hero is gone. I drop my feet to the cold wooden floor, hit the light and pull on my robe. Good morning, Daphne. Piotr's eyes are red, his face tight. I am so sorry to call so early. I was up. I adjust my glasses. It's Hero. My heart skips, then aches hard. You two were close. I thought you should hear this not from the news. Dawn silently illumes the window as Piotr tells me how Hero ended his life 3 days ago. He was feverish and complaining of flu symptoms when one night he washed what looked like a pharmacy down with a bottle of sake, walked out from his home into the cold mist of Hokkaido and died. There is more, Piotr says. His daughter, Tomoe, she called. It seems they cannot recover his body. It's lodged in a tree. What do you mean? She sent a video. It's something very wrong. And the corpse, I don't know how to say this. He looks away from the camera, blinking, and throws a hand over his eyes. There are reports, not just in Japan. Send it, I say. It is very bad to see a friend like this. No one understands. Send it. A tiny yellow envelope appears on my screen. I click, the video launches, and I see Hero, nude and wound impossibly into the crook of a large but semi-denuded poplar. The top branches are winter bare as they should be, but the crux where his Hero's body is lodged is thick and feathery with green leaves. I lean in as the image grows closer. Hero's flesh is split and submerged in a tangle of new shoots. Young branches pierce his arms, torso, his legs. His bare feet dangle, muddy toes pointing to the wet earth, to his robe, to his yukata, lay abandoned on the ground. I choke, my breath seizing, but I am unable to stop the video. Piotr speaks in a low voice, but I don't know what he's saying. A woman's voice pleads in Japanese, Tomoe. Her words are fragmented with sobs as she pans out, and the feed shakes across the barren farmland that surrounds the lone tree, the shadows long. The image zooms in on Hero's face, blurs, then grows crisp, filling the frame with vacant, milky eyes and parted, swollen lips. Tomoe's voice falters as she changes to English. Listen, she says, choking back a sob, to the morning song. Thank you.
I have chills. That gave me chills. And you've gotten some wonderful comments in the comment box. I'm going to start bringing everyone back in. But Lauren, as I do you have anything coming up that you would like to share or announce? Any projects going on?
This Way Lies Madness with Flame Tree Press is kind of doing the rounds right now. And I have a poem in there called Speak, edited by Dave Jeffrey and Lee Murray. So I'm very proud of that right now. That's where I'd like to cast a little bit of light. Thank you.
Wonderful. Anyone else? Geneve, do you have anything you would like to, anything coming up that you'd like to share with us?
I can't think of anything. The most recent is probably what you shared in the comments in Silk and Sinew, edited by Christy Parkalski, who will be one of the readers for the next series of these readings. And she's the editor for Silk and Sinew. I have a short story called If I'm to Earn My Tether, and also a poem which escapes me now.
I did put it in the chat.
A Pocket of Soil. Thank you.
There it is. Yep.
Yeah. And I've read the collection. It is incredible. So please, everyone check that out as well.
I'm excited to read that one. Ernest, do you have anything coming up that you would like to tell us about?
Yeah, I have a poem. I have a couple of poems coming out. I have a poem in the latest issue of Poetry London, and I think if you can get a copy of that, it would be really nice. I think the poem is it's quite good, and
Oh,
yeah, and I have some stories that I'm looking to publish. So yeah.
great. And I would love to read your poetry at some point. Rob, what about you? What's going on with you?
Well, I have nothing imminent right now. Heading back to the well from a fiction perspective. I'm doing a lot of writing for that theater program I mentioned. I write the plays for it. So, but that's it at the moment. But while I have the microphone, I do want to say thank you so much to everyone. This has been a very wonderful evening.
It has. And Nicola, what about you? Do you have anything you'd like to share that's coming out or promote anything?
I'm going to be very honest. This has been the last of a bit of a string of publications that I've had over the last 2 months. So not currently. Currently, it's heading back to the drawing board and sending out the next round of submissions and such.
Well, good
Having
luck.
said that, if you do want to read more of my stuff, I did have a novella published last year in 2024. So feel free to look up Scrap Metal Angel by Nicola Kapron if you are interested in complicated relationships, sensory-based magic systems, and more spooky creatures with wings.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. Thank you. And I do believe I put that in the chat as well that people can grab. So yes, as Rob was saying, thank you, everyone. Your godmother grants wishes, but she sometimes makes requests. So her request for this time is, it's the weekend. It's a different part of the weekend for some of us than it is for others of us. But what I would like is for the people who are in the studio, the people who are watching, and people who are watching in the future, I want you to do something fun and joyous, and don't care what anyone else thinks. Do something just for you, because you deserve fun. And more than that, you deserve joy. Always remember, your godmother loves you. Thank you for showing up tonight, and have a wonderful evening. We are going to sign off now.
I